Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to make this ridiculously cute little pendant, and I'm going to use 10mm mood changing glass cabochons, but you can certainly use stone cabochons. Here's one I'm doing in labradorite. It's beautiful. So it's an easy technique. I would even call it beginner style. Okay, so we'll start. So I'm starting with 7 inches of round, soft 20 gauge wire. It's 10mm round. And so I'm going to use my step pliers, and I'm going to use this dowel on it. It's about 10mm. You could use a wooden dowel or a Sharpie marker, any kind of round dowel that's the approximate diameter of your cabochon. And I'll just get to the center of this wire, and I'm just going to roll around the plier and make a complete circle with this wire around the plier, just like that. The goal is to have your frame sit just on top of your cabochon, just like that. Maybe even a little bit deeper, but right about there, not all the way at the base. Okay, so when you get the fit that you want, you can take some fine pliers and you can mark the center here, or I just eyeball it. And I'm going to bring these 2 wires up. This is about the center here where they cross. I'm going to bring these 2 wires up to vertical. 20 gauge is very soft. I'm just using chain nose pliers. I'll just get next to this one, use my finger, and just press that wire straight up to the top. And that's pretty good there. Just tap it right here, make it flat, bring your cap back up, check the fit, and that's pretty good there. Okay, just about like that. Then I'll use, this is 1.5mm copper ball chain, and I love to use this stuff. It's really easy to mimic very tiny beads on the sides of your frame by using ball chain. You could certainly tie 1mm beads on traditional style, but I think this is a pretty fun way to do it. So I'll use about a foot, might go 14 inches of 28 gauge round weaving wire. And the way I like to start, so I've got 28 gauge wire here. I like to be going in an overhanded direction when I'm weaving this wire. So I'm going to start the small fragment underhanded, and I'll get to the in between the second and the third ball on the ball chain here, and then I'll do a complete 360 around the first one, in between the first and second one, just like that. So you make a tiny little coil there, and then you can bring your frame up, and I just like to leave my ball chain all on one length. You could cut it down to 1 inch if you want, but I'm going to get up here onto my frame, and I'm going to put that first ball right against the neck, and I'll use that first leading inch, and I'll just tie it on, make a couple of wraps right here, just to get it tied on. It's a little bit squirrely until you get a couple of these chain links wrapped in. I'm going to stay right about there. Okay, 2 is enough to get you started. And then, like I said, I like to be going in an overhanded direction, and when we wrapped on here, the ball chain it's kind of going in the opposite direction, so I want to release that second one I grabbed. So I only have the first one tied on, and now I'll take this straight over and into the loop, just like you're sewing a button. You gotta hold that first one, do a 360 all the way around your frame wire there. Make sure the ball doesn't slide away. You can hold on to this fragment, or sometimes I like to actually just do like that so it doesn't travel while I'm wrapping. And I'll just pull tight. I did a 360 around the frame wire, and now I'll just go back through the loop. Keep your ball chained to the outside of this frame. You'll come under the chain wire, so we've kind of got like one around the ball and then one around the frame wire. I'll stretch diagonally from the back to the next open link, and I'll do a loop around it by going in through the frame, and then do a complete 360 around the frame. From behind, come to the front, back through it, and back down to the back. Now you're ready for the next link. So make sure that the ball chain stays to the right of you. You just have to jump your wire each time. Get close to your wire. I like to do this little pre-bend. Go all the way through the loop, and I'm just holding the frame easily right there, not being harsh on it or death gripping it. So I went through the loop, and now I'm going to come in front of the frame loop to do a complete 360 around that frame loop. And back down the back. Okay. And I'll just pull tight right there and make sure this all stays nice and flat and that you don't have any bubbles. So I'll stretch from the back to the next link. Come up, do a little pre-bend, go through the loop here, your frame loop. Get a nice tight wrap on it. Come to the front of the frame loop. Use your finger and scooch that wire in there, so you do a 360 around the frame by coming back through and back to the back and back down. Put your finger on it so that you close the bubbles. Get your chain to the right. Now stretch the wire to the right and come into the next link in between the next two ball links. So I'll grab that link by going through the frame loop, the 20 gauge, then I'll come in front of it, get tight, and do a 360 around the 20 gauge by going back through it and back down. Get the chain to the right, pull everything tight, get the next stretch to the right and get the next link lined up. Oh, sorry, a little earthquake in my camera. Right here I'll come up, just holding it there with my finger, go through so that you get the chain, come back in front of it and make a complete 360 around the frame by going back through and to the back and down. Move the chain to the right. I like to kind of squeeze right here and then pull to make sure it's flat and tight. Then you'll stretch to the right a little bit from the back. Do a little pre-bend on your next link. Come through the frame with your 28 gauge do a 360 around the frame by coming back around to the front, go back through and down the back. Move the ball chain to the right. Pull everything tight, stretch, and do the next one. And you'll just work around the frame wire in this way. Okay, so I am working to get that very last ball right in that corner, just like the first one started. So here, you know, I can either open this up so that I can pass through and make it a little easier on myself. Get that one wrapped tight, pass through these two wires. Sometimes it's just easier to go through the frame, but just get that on there as close as you can. So I've got the chain linked, and now I'm going to make my 360 around the wire. And then that's it. All the ball chain is now on. My last link is this little free one in the corner. Okay, so I'm going to cut the rest of the links away right here, preserving that one for the corner. And I'll make sure to get this wire nice and tight. And then I'm going to wrap a few more times to get myself up to the neck and just close that little gap. It's about 5 small wraps. And since the bail wires are open right now, I'll just come through them. I'm just going to get my wrapping wire to the point where it's 1 or 2 wraps onto the neck of the wire right there, just above the last ball link. Okay, just like that. And now I have this small fragment on this side that we started with. And I'll just tuck it down there and make a few links with this short fragment. And then I'm going to cut the short one away, so I'm about even with the long one. So I'm going to keep the long one and cut the short one away. And I'll just cut it right there nice and close. We're going to add wire with the other half of this, so I'm not too worried about it. Make sure to keep your nice shape. That looks really good. So there's one side, see, this is the back, where it was more slanted, the wires, because we were slanting from the back to get to the next link. And one side, which the wraps are more straight on, this is the side I consider the front. So you can choose whichever side, because they look both good, but I like the one, you know, that was facing me that I worked with, since we were slanting to the next link from the back. So right here, I'm going to check the fit I'll put these two wires together and I'll just hold my bead. That looks really, my cap, that looks really good. Nothing changed. And now here, if you need to straighten these wires a little bit, you can just jiggle them, get them side by side. You've got some weaving wire left on this foot, about 6 inches. So I'm just going to weave these two sides together. So I'm going to take and jump across. I'll do a complete 360 around the top wire, which brings me to the back and to the bottom. So then I'll come up and do a complete 360 around the bottom wire, come up from the front, do a complete 360 around the top wire, and that leaves me in the back. Then I'll do a complete 360 around the front wire. And you're just going to do about 5 or 6 of these wraps, maybe 7, about 1/4 of an inch, maybe less. It really depends on the diameter, the width of your stone, because this is going to be the bottom turn. It'll be this little guy down here. So mine only needs probably, 7 or 8 of these, maybe 6 of them. I'll just do a few. And it's okay if you have a few more than you need. You can actually do a few more than you need because that'll travel you up the back of the stone a little bit and get you to about here. You can just wrap them plain too, like I did on this one, but you want to make enough to get you from the front to about right here at the base of the back. And that's usually about 7 or 8 wraps for a stone about 5 millimeter, 6 millimeter thick, like mine is. And you can always add wraps if we're short, and you don't have to worry about it if you have 1 or 2 too many. Okay, so that's about good right there. I'm going to push my weaves back. Okay, so this is actually the bottom, and I'm going to make sure that I'm facing the front of this, looking at my wraps to make sure they're the upright ones. And I'll take my pliers right here at the base of these wraps. Might have to fix that first one, no big deal. Scooch it over a little bit. And you want to make sure you got a nice straight line, and you're just going to bend it back and make like a little back seat for your stone. And we'll just take these wires straight up the back, just like that, like you're making a little hook. Okay, and so my wraps go to about here. And I'll just keep that wire there in case I need 1 or 2 more, and I might just put 1 or 2 more. It doesn't have to be too high because now we're going to split these wires and make a back for your cab. So that's about good there. So I'll take my chain nose, I'll hold them just about at the end of the wraps right there. This is really soft wire, so it should be real easy. You don't have to crush that hold with the plier or anything. Just hold on to it. Okay, and just make them horizontal like that. I'm going to use the remainder of this 28 gauge. I like to weave my backs, coil them. You don't have to do that. You can leave them bare. But I find that that gives the cab a little bit more security, gives the back a real cute look. Plus, if you have a two-sided stone, this could actually be the front too. Turns out really cute. This is the back of the one we're doing. So we've just done that little bit right there. We've split them, and now I'm just going to coil up the two sides here about a half an inch or so. And with the one wire I have remaining on here, the 28 gauge, the little bit, I'm just going to use it, and then I'll add a little 4-inch bit over here just for decorative coiling to make it look like this side. Okay. And now right here, I'm just going to hold it with my thumb and curve the wire so that it comes back up to the top center. So here's the bottom center. Just want to curve the wire so that it goes up to the top center. And I want to make sure I've got enough coverage for the back of my stone. Just kind of trailing this edge here because I know that's the edge of my cab, the inside diameter, so that's pretty good there. I could have used a little bit more wire, so I'm just going to stretch it up a little bit. That's good. You want your coil to end about at the top here. Okay, so now I'll use, let's go ahead and get about 8 inches of 28 gauge, and we'll just continue the wire. I think that's about 8 inches. I might have 9 or 10, but you need about 8. So I'm going to start down here and just make, a coil on this half to match this half, and I'll save the long remaining part of the 28 gauge so I can tie these two together when I get to the top. So I'll just add the wire down here. And I'll coil, just holding on to that first leading fragment. I gave myself about an inch. I'm just going to hold my finger, my thumb right here, so that I can gently bend this wire back up to the top center. That's pretty good. I'm going to take my plier and make some adjustments to this wire. Shape it. Don't press too hard so you don't crush your coils, but you can shape it a little bit. And just have it meet at the top center. Just kind of have this wire go along the inside diameter. So you're making a little seat for your cabochon there. And just leave that long weaving wire on there for now. We're going to make sure that we're center. We're going to bend these two wires straight back up. So about right here, I'm not even going to measure them. I'm just going to eyeball it, use my chain nose plier, and turn these wires back up just like that. And I'll go ahead and continue to coil right here. A few more to get myself up to the neck. You can make those coils as loose or as tight as you want. I just like them to be close to each other. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to get my wire up here to the top. A few more wraps. That's pretty good where I can reach the other side. Okay, I'll take this fragment off the bottom here, just hold it and do circles until it breaks off. Make sure your frame is nice and that your wires are top center. You'll just open it up and make a little gap in there. If you need to, you can do a gentle tap and tap these a little more flat. Just squeeze your plier in there. That's pretty good. Okay, once it's shaped nicely and your wires are back up here, you want to go ahead and just make a couple of wraps around both of these. Just hold them. And I'm just going to wrap moving towards the top of the wires a couple of times, 3 times right there. That's all you need. Just tap that. And now the very satisfying part, we can go ahead and slip our cabochon right in there. Woo! And that should fit very nicely. The wires and the beads in the front, the ball chain should be holding the cab in nicely, and the back wires should be shaped so that the back of your cab can sit on it nicely. You can use your pliers and do gentle adjustments if you need to. Make sure that you're flat enough down here. Work gently. Don't press too hard. Look at the top and make sure you're even on both sides. The cabs I'm working with have a slight dome in the back, so that's why my wire's domed a little bit. But yours, might be too. Okay, so there I am in the front. I'm going to go ahead and use the remainder of this wire. I'll use the same little weave that I weaved down here to do the bail. Just like that. We'll weave about 1/2 inch. And actually, I might just coil them. I'll do this one a little different. Keep these 2 wires side by side. And I'm just going to use, since I have a little bit of wire here, I'm just going to turn around these 2 wires, these 2 frame wires, and create a little bail for myself. Just keep the wires side by side and just turn the pendant. Hold on to the 28 gauge and then just push it all down. Use your flat nose and tap on that. So I've got about 1/2 inch there. You can give yourself a little more wire so that you can have a couple of inches left once you get your 1/2 inch wrapped here. So you can tie on down here. I'm just going to add a wire, so that's fine. So once you get that 1/2 inch, you'll take this, hold everything, you'll take this bail wire and do a slight slant to the front, just a slight one. Okay? We'll take and make sure that you're up in center. So sometimes we have to do a little adjusting to make sure that our bail is coming up the center of our pendant. Okay, so that's pretty good there. And now I'm going to use 6 inches. You don't have to, but you can use about 4 inches, but just to hang on to it. So I'm just going to take this 6 inches and I'll go around the very bottom. I'll center it to the bottom of the bail wires and I'll just go around once nice and tight at the bottom to get it secured on. And then I'm going to take the 1/2 and to tie on this front frame, I'm just going to pass the wire underneath the frame. It's a little bit tight, but it goes through to the back. And then I'm going to guide it down so that it lands and ties in right between the ball links right there at the shoulder of my pendant, so it looks like nothing happened. You can give a decent little tug, so that ties this to the back frame so it doesn't flip open. Okay, so I've got one nice tie there. Then I'll come to this side, do the same, make sure there's no slack in that wire. I'll pass through the front right there at the base of that link that I want. And sometimes you have to use a needle. There should be enough room, but you want to make sure that you're getting both of these wires tied together, the front one to the back one. So it doesn't do you any good if you just go around the front one. Make sure when you come through that you're actually catching this back wire, and it could be a little tricky. There, come through the very top here. You have to catch both wires. There's a little tiny space there at the top. Just pull, and before it goes all the way down, look in the front and make sure that it's landing right in between those two ball links, and then tighten it up right next to the bail. Just keep the bail. If the two round wires want to turn, just tap them. Okay, and that's a pretty good tie. You only need that one. It's pretty invisible. So to get rid of these, I usually just try to go around one more time, since all we did was pass through, so that we actually have a 360 wrap on this. And then you can break it off from there. Just hold it and do circles until it breaks. And then I'll take this one, try to get one more wrap around this back coil here. Just the back coil, so that you're actually doing a complete 360 around that. Okay, there's room enough there. It's tight, but you'll get it. Once it's in there, you can hold it and do circles until it breaks. And that's a pretty good capture. The stone's in there. My wires, my bail wires are slanted slightly to the front. And now I'll use about a 3mm dowel. I'll put myself about the center of my wraps. And I'm just going to turn a little bail to the back. Come down this back center here. And I'm going to push that in. I should have actually saved some of that 28 gauge. Don't break it off yet from one of these here, so that you could have tied around, and captured these bail wires. It's a tiny little pendant, so this is a pretty hard wire. We don't really need to tie it down, but we can. I'm going to snip them right here. Just want to leave about 1/4 of an inch. And make sure that your bail is nice and has a nice profile, not too far back. And now we can take our round nose. We'll split these two wires, one to the left and one to the right. Just hold on to your bail and make sure it stays in the middle. Split those two like that. You can take your round nose plier right here. Just do a cute little inward turn. You're not pushing, you're not pulling. You're just making a little inward turn like you're making a heart. You'll do the opposite side. Just turn around your plier, bring it to meet the other one. So cute. Oop. And that's it, you guys. That's done. You could go ahead and tie these two. If you feel like it's a little bit loose on you, you could go ahead and tie, put a little tie right there and put a little tie right there. This is such a tiny little pendant that the bail isn't going to go anywhere. So I'm just going to leave it flipped over like this. If this were bigger, certainly when you bend it down, tie it and connect it to the front. If this were bigger, to make sure, or, even if you were using, say, 22 gauge, a smaller wire, you don't want that to ever pull out. So 20 gauge is pretty tough on a tiny little pendant here, so I'm pretty good with that. And that's going to be it. Take this plier and just make sure to turn your bail, make sure it faces the front. Then you can add your favorite little chain. I'm using the very same 1.5 millimeter ball chain. And you can enjoy your cute little Quincy pendant. I love it. All right, you guys, that's it. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you make 2 of these, then you can make a pair of earrings, right? These 2 are different, but had I intended for them to be the same, they're pretty similar, but the bail on this one is a little bit longer. But all I have to do now is put maybe 2 jump rings into here, 2 earring hooks, and then they're a cute pair of earrings as well. All right, you guys, enjoy Quincy and give me thumbs up, leave me comments, let me know what you think about this cute little project. And if you make any, let me see you on social media. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. Lots of love.